We're good now.
I call this meeting to order. Confirmation of the agenda that the Committee of Adjustment hereby accept the agenda for the June 1st, 2020 public meeting as presented. Do I have a mover?
I'll move that, Kevin.
I have Kevin, seconder.
Chris.
Chris, I have Chris seconding. Carson, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that the Committee of Adjustment hereby accepts the agenda for the June 1st, 2020 public meeting as presented. So Deputy Reeve Sight.
Yes.
Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson.
Yes.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Not hearing any. Number 4, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a mover?
Anita will move.
Okay, seconder.
Paul second.
Paul seconds. Carson, I hand it over to you again.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that the Committee of Adjustment hereby adopts the minutes from the Committee of Adjustment meeting held February 18th, 2020 as presented. So Councillor Falconer.
Yes.
Councillor Heffer.
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson. Councillor Palmer.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight.
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 7-0.
Statement of precedent that any decision reached by the committee cannot be used to set a precedent. Number 6, scheduled application, file number 6.1, file number MV01-2020, location 685 Queen Street, Blythe Ward, Township of North Huron. Application, of course, is the Township of North Huron. 6.1.1, we have a presentation by Monica, the Huron County Planner. Are you there, Monica?
Yes, hello everybody. Happy to be here with you online. So this is an application for minor variance, and the clerk is just bringing up my presentation, I think. Thank you very much. So we can go to the next slide. This is a minor variance application number 1 for 2020. Then the township is the applicant. The location is the fire hall property at part of lot 42 concession 2. And the address is 685 Queen Street in Blythe. Can everybody hear me okay?
Great.
Okay, great. So the purpose of this minor variance is to seek a relief from the maximum height requirement in the North Huron zoning bylaw. So the township is proposing to build a sand storage shed accessory building at the fire hall property. And the location of the shed will be at the southwest corner of the property, so the back corner of the property furthest from the street. And the maximum height set out in the zoning bylaw when you are adjacent to a residential is 6 meters. And for this building, we're asking for a variance to 7.5 meters. Next slide. So this is just a slide showing the location of the subject property. Of course, the property looks very much different today. This photo was taken in 2015. Now the subject property has the fire hall on it, and the proposal is to build this sand storage shed on this property. Next slide. So when considering an application for a minor variance, there are 4 tests that are set out in the Planning Act. The first question is, does it meet the intent of the North Huron official plan? Next, we ask, does it meet the intent of the Township of North Huron zoning bylaw? Is it desirable for the appropriate development of the lands in question, and is it minor in nature? So in reviewing these 4 tests, consideration was given to the official plan zoning bylaw and the purpose of the request and consideration of whether the change was minor in nature. And in reviewing these 4 tests, the planning department found that it satisfies the 4 tests of a minor variance, and therefore this application is recommended for approval with the recommended conditions. Next slide. So once council has made a decision on this minor variance, I would be prepared to give some guidance about the effect of public comments on the decision of council and the effect of agency comments. In this case, there were no public comments unless other comments arise at this meeting. And other than township staff, there were no other agency comments. So I'll give a recommendation after council has had a chance to discuss the minor variance, and if there's any other questions, I'm available.
Thank you very much, Monica. We're going to go to 6.1.2, opportunity for comments for the applicant or applicant and their agent, and I'm going to presume we don't have any. 6.1.3, opportunity for comments by others in attendance, and I'm not sure if there are any, so I'll be silent for a second.
Through you, your worship, there's no one else in attendance right now.
Okay, thank you very kindly. 6.1.4, opportunity for questions, comments by committee or adjustment members. Would anybody out there like to make a comment, questions, or concerns? Speak now.
I have a question, please.
Go ahead, sir.
Little concerned about how far is will the sand shed be from the neighbor's house, or from Yule's house? Is it that extra height, and it's right on the boundary? I understand. Is it going to affect them in any negative way?
Maybe if we could just go 2 slides back. So I don't know does my pointer arrow show up? I guess no, probably just on my screen. The proposed sand shed is to be constructed at the rear portion of the fire hall property, so at the southwest corner. And in that location, it's not immediately adjacent to any houses. It's immediately adjacent to a large backyard, but it's not going to cast a shadow on anyone's house or affect the view lines from their windows in their home or cause any issues that way. So no, I wouldn't say that that was an issue.
Chris, I might add that they have opportunity now to speak and they have not come forward, so I'm sure they're aware of what's going on. But I appreciate your concern. Anybody else? Not hearing any, we'll move on to 6.1.5, summary comments and recommendations from the Huron County Planning and Development Department. And yes, Monica, I would like you to go from the chart for us, please.
Sure thing. So in this case, there were no comments received from the public. So in regard to the effect of public comments on the decision of council, I would recommend 2A. No public comments were received on this application, so there was no effect on the decision. And with regard to agency comments, now planning department is an agency, so the better one here would be supportive comments received. Agency comments were received in support of the application, the effect of which resulted in a decision to approve the application. So that would be 3B.
Thank you, Monica. Number 7, decision of the Committee of Adjustment and effects of the comments received by the committee's decision. Could I have a mover?
I'll make that motion to move.
Okay. Kevin, seconder? Do I have a seconder out there to push this forward? You have to speak up. I can't see your hands. I don't have full screen. If we don't have a seconder, this fails on the floor. So would I be permitted to ask why nobody had any comments against it and yet nobody's voting for it. I'm a little confused on that. Carson, can I ask that question at this time?
Yep, through your worship. So perhaps I'll read the motion on the floor right now. And then if this motion were to get defeated, basically your other options would be to defer this application or to deny this application. But right now the motion on the floor is that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application MV01-2020 as it applies to 685 Queen Street, Blythe Ward, Township of North Huron, applicant owners, Township of North Huron, with the conditions set out in the report presented by Monica Walker Bolton at the June 1st, 2020 Committee of Adjustment meeting. And right now I have Councillor Falconer moving that motion, and we're looking for a seconder.
Do I have a seconder? Anita, are you seconding?
I will second it.
Thank you, Anita. Last chance for questions or comments or concerns. Not here.
Through you, Reeve Bailey, and maybe I'll just remind council on the context of this, or Sean, I believe, is here as well. He might be able to speak to it better. But this application stems from the original plans for the Blythe Fire Hall and Public Works property, and this was just something that wasn't included at the time in order to move things along faster to address that concern. And I believe a couple months ago, Sean brought this report forward, kind of indicating that this would be coming forward.
My apologies, everyone. I should have had Sean speak to this to begin with so that we weren't confused and just wondering what was going on, because it has been a while since it was before council, so I do apologize. So I'm now going, we have a mover and a seconder. Now I'm going to hand it over to you, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this will be a recorded vote. So Councillor Heffer?
No.
Councillor Van Henderson?
Yes.
Councillor Palmer?
No.
Councillor McBurney? Councillor McBurney?
Rick, you're muted. You're there, Rick. I don't see your picture. If you're there, you're muted. Yeah, I need to turn the mute off.
Carson, just turn your screen on.
So Councillor McBurney, right now your video is off, and there, you're unmuted now.
I got the mic now.
There you go.
I would say no.
Deputy Reeve Sight?
Yes.
Councillor Falconer?
Yes.
And Reeve Bailey. So that vote carries 4-3, with the noes being Councillor Heffer, Councillor Palmer, and Councillor McBurney.
And I make it's just a comment, is that appropriate, as to maybe why we had, you didn't ask for comments after it was seconded, Carson, and I would have said it then. It's a concern.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious of why this went 4-3, so I'm going to allow it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but Dick Carson, you did not ask for comments after it was seconded. But anyways, there's still concern here that it's too expensive. And I know there were reasons for the company getting it, but we would like to have seen other bids. It just wasn't competitively bidded on. And it's a huge concern in our minds.
So through you, Your Worship, if I can address this question. The discussion right now is only in regard to granting the minor variance. The cost of the other project is something that came before council, not the committee of adjustment. I don't know if that clears anything up. But the vote itself was just on whether to approve, defer, or deny the minor variance.
Chris? Okay, we're all good? Okay. We're going to move on to number 8. Reminder of appeal.
So through your worship, so we still need to conduct a vote on the recommendation from the chart, and Monica has provided her recommendations. So I'll go ahead and read the motion as recommended by Monica.
Thank you.
So that for minor variance application MV01-2020, no public comments were received on this application, so there was no effect on the decision. And agency comments were received in support of the application, the effect of which resulted in a decision to approve the application. So we'll need a mover and a seconder for that.
Do I have a mover? I have
Trevor
Trevor.
moved.
Seconder is Kevin.
Yep, I'll second
Over
it.
to you, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So that will be a recorded vote. So Councillor Van Hitterson? Councillor Van Hitterson? I'm not, doesn't look like she can hear me right now. So Councillor Palmer?
I'm not sure how to react to this. I'll say no.
Perhaps whether it's useful for you to explain the purpose of this chart. Whether that helps any. Basically, this chart to help basically rationalize why council made their decision on this planning application.
Yeah, I guess to showing my immaturity so far, I suppose the question would be if a councillor disagrees with the action and the variance, say, but then how do you deal with this part B of the question? And this is an education, Carson. Need to know how to handle that.
Through your worship, so, and Monica, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but this chart is more to deal with the effect of public comments and on agency comments, right? So Monica recommended 2A because there was no public comments received. And Monica recommended 3B because agency comments were received, but they were in support of the application, right? So if there had been public comments received, then we would see something different than 2A kind of thing.
Shoot. Yeah, I know that. Okay.
Trevor would like to speak to this for a second, and then I'm going to move things along because this is simply a vote. Go ahead, Trevor.
I think we have to understand it's two separate questions. It's not, one is not related to the other. So if you are against the variance for whatever reason, the question of the question of the chart is, do you agree with the committee, the recommendation of the planner? It's not whether you agreed to the variance or not. It's, do you agree with the comments that were received? Did they have a bearing on your decision as a counselor? Nothing more. And again, at the end of the day, when making a decision on the variance is the variance, not the cost or anything else. It's just whether you like the variance or you don't. And it's two separate questions, and don't commingle them.
Okay, everybody. So let's move this along. I'm going to hand it back over to Carson and Christopher.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'll just read that motion one more time just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So that the minor variance application MV01-2020, no public comments were received on this application, so there was no effect on the decision, and agency comments were received in support of the application, the effect of which resulted in a decision to approve the application. So as that motion reads, Deputy Reeve Sipe has moved that motion and Councillor Falconer has seconded it. So this will be a recorded vote. So Councillor Van Hitterson,
Yes.
Councillor Palmer,
Okay.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Syke,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heifer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that vote carries 7-0.
Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, now moving on to, I think I'm on 8 now. Minor variance, and this is the reminder of the appeal period. Minor variance procedures following a public meeting. The Secretary Treasurer sends within 10 days a certified copy of the decision indicating the last day of appealing to the local planning appeal tribunal. 2, and A, the application. B, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing if requested. C, each person who appeared in person or by counsel at the hearing and who filed with the Secretary Treasurer a written request and notice of decision. If no appeal lodged after the 20-day objection period has expired and no appeal has been lodged, the decision of the Committee of Adjustment is final and binding. The Secretary Treasurer shall notify the applicant. If a notice of appeal is lodged within 20 days of the Committee of Adjustment making the decision, an appeal lodged with the Secretary Treasurer outlining the reasons for such an appeal, and said appeal is accompanied by the required fee of $300, the Committee of Adjustment no longer retains jurisdiction over the application. If a proper appeal is lodged, the Secretary Treasurer is required to provide proper notice to the local planning appeal tribunal. Okay, so number 9, that there being no further business before a Committee of Adjustment, the public meeting is hereby adjourned at 5:52. Do I have a mover? I
Anita
have
will move.
Paul and Anita. First, I'm going to hand it back over to you for recorded vote.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the motion on the floor is that there being no further business before the Committee of Adjustment, the meeting be hereby adjourned at 5:52. So Councillor Palmer,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Syke,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heifer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hitterson, and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So the motion to adjourn carries 7-0. So right now we'll stop this meeting and then I'll start up the regular council meeting and we'll wait till 6 o'clock.